Welcome to the SWO. We have my two guys. We have Nevada, we have Bank. We have a special emergency update because we have the biggest star in the galaxy in town right now. JTT is in town. This is a mid-visit update. So Nevada, what are you hearing so far about how everything's progressing through the first 24 hours or so?
First of all, you guys, thanks for joining me on a Saturday. It's an exciting time. JTT, this is a great time of the year, and it all started with that epic landing on Thursday, which is something none of us had ever seen before. And I think, Ohio State was looking to make a high impact statement to JTT about how important he was, about how important he is to the class, to the program, and I think they knocked that out of the park for sure. And as things sit right now, Ohio State has really felt like they were in the driver's seat for a long time on this one. But I can tell you with absolute certainty that they feel even better about where they are now. And the visit's gone exactly as they thought it would. And the relationships they've been strong. They're stronger now. The connections with existing players are good, and Ohio State's really, really feeling good about where they sit here on come Saturday.
How about you, Bank?
Yeah, I agree. I talked to someone early this morning, and it was really early. Someone was supposed to get back to me yesterday evening. It didn't happen. You know how it goes in this business when you have a source, man. You're at their mercy. And that phone rang this morning before 6 a.m. And I was like, if it's not one of my kids, I'm not answering it. Well, I saw who it was. It was like, first ring, I got to take this. And yeah, they're thrilled with where things, as of 6 a.m. this morning, they were just thrilled with where things were at that point. And I can tell you, and we heard this, Kirk, when we were at camp, they're going against Bama here. They know the kid's not going to Washington. If he's going to Washington, he'd be there right now. He would have went there in March, And then Oregon was kind of viewed as a threat, but not really. And then USC, what can they possibly sell? The head coach is going to be gone at some point, and everyone knows that. The staff is going to turn over. He's not going to know who's coaching him. So this is Ohio State is looking at this as a game with Alabama. And then I was kind of told, how do you separate yourself from Alabama? You really can't point to wins and losses and titles because they beat you and all that stuff. So, you got 3 in the last 50 years. You got 3 in the last 50 minutes. So you can't win that. So, and NIL, you take your best shot there. And Ryan Day I was told, is a genius at NIL. But, Alabama's not going to get outspent, right, Kurt? We know that, so you ain't winning that one either. How do you differentiate yourself, So where does Ohio State have the positive? And that's, you simply lay out the facts that, yes, Alabama will absolutely develop JTT for the NFL. And you just list the guys and they've done this, or they're going to do it. You list Raekwon Davis, Quinnen Williams, Isaiah Buggs, Daron Payne, Deshaun Hand, Jonathan Allen, Tomlinson, A'Shawn Robinson, Jerron Reed. List them guys and say, my God, they got all these guys drafted. Have you ever heard of any of them before? Because, who are stars in that group? Let me tell you some names. JT, how about Chase? You know who we're talking about? We say Chase or Nick or Joey. I think you do. We don't even need the last name. So do you want to be the next Chase Young, or do you want to be the next Jaron Reed? Because we develop superstars here. We develop NFL guys that are on their way to the NFL Hall of Fame. You have Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Chase Young talent. We are the best ones to develop you. We run a 4-3. We've always run a 4-3. We know how to run that 4-3. Larry Johnson's a genius at getting defensive ends. Nick is the best. You can't argue that. But Nick is from that Belichick tree, that 2-gap 3-4, Kirk, and you know about that. Those guys are not set up to get sacks. They're set up to stop the run and let the linebackers flow to the ball and make all the plays. So do you want to be a plugger and a filler, or do you want to get 20 sacks in the NFL? And that's a key point of the selling the selling point here. That's the key one to me, as far as everything I've heard so far about NIL or anything. That's the key selling point. You're not going to be a plugger in this system. You're going to be developed to be a superstar.
Yeah, and it's something that people don't talk enough about scheme fit, but you know, and you didn't even mention like Courtney Brown, Michael Haynes, and those are first rounders that Larry Johnson developed 20 years ago. So he's been doing it for a long time. But kids don't like to two gap. They don't like to hold up, and like they want to go be the disruptors. When you're JTT or Jack Sawyer or Joey Bosa, they don't want to hold up a guard and play between the tackle and the guard and have to hold two guys up, and then the linebackers get to flow and make the plays. I mean, that could be good team defense, but these guys out on the edge, man, like you don't get like a guy like Myles Garrett or JTT or Nick Bosa to have him hold up stuff for the linebackers, because you want that guy out on the edge, coming off the edge like a werewolf and just making that tackle's life a living hell, essentially. You know, like something that he dreads. Like you don't dread a two gap, you dread that guy who's just a monster off the edge. And plus, like if I'm that kid, I'm like, God, so you're telling me I get to play one end and then I get Jack Sawyer for the whole 3 years that I'm here, I got Jack on the other side. Like, I mean, you can't be double teamed, you know? I mean, it's physically impossible to double team both those guys, and they're both slippery pass rushers. So, I mean, I love that. That's what I was hearing too about this is going to be part of the presentation. I thought that being at the airport and seeing the vibe, and you know, I was kind of shooting the bull with Larry Johnson, who I love. Like if you said, Kirk, you could pick right now, and I know he'll be retired by then, but like you pick one guy today to send your kid to in any position in the country, I'm picking Larry Johnson in D-line, you know, just because he's that good. And I've always respected him. I've known him for 20 years. Like when I was a sophomore at Perry, I went to camp at Penn State because back then I liked Penn State because of LeVar Arrington and you know, they were good. So I went to camp out there and I was like, God, he's awesome. And I wasn't anywhere near good enough to play D-line for him, but you know, that's the kind of guy that, you know, he's a good man. He works his ass off, and he's just a good dude to mentor my kid. You know, like if you're trying to place a safe bet, man, that's the guy you want to put your kid in the hands of. So Nevada, you know, what else are you hearing? I mean, we're coming down the stretch. You know, they had a nice dinner at Hyde Park last night. I'm sure they do the whole private room thing. They've been doing that for 20 years, so that's not, you know, anything new. But what other key things do you think gives Ohio State an edge coming down the stretch of this recruitment?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think one, I mean, you mentioned Jack Sawyer, but I just want to circle back on that. Jack being here at Ohio State in a time that lines up with JT's is humongous. And one of the things that I've really been watching carefully has been, you know, because Jack and JT have a relationship, and I've been kind of monitoring to see how often those guys are communicating, how much they're staying in contact with each other. And if anything, that thing's picked up over the last few months. So I figured if that was going in the other direction, that probably was a bad sign. But I think if it's going in this direction, it's definitely a good sign, and certainly something to, you know, if you've got a star son that plays defensive end, there's nothing better for you to have another superstar at the other end. And as you said, you know, you're avoiding double teams, and you're going to be put in a position where you can really shine. And I you know, that's been a really key thing. The next thing really is, you know, and I know this is going to sound a little odd, but the Polynesian connection and the fact that you've got Haskell, you've got Paley, you've got, you know, the recent transfer in from USC, you know, you've got Enoch, you know, that's a big thing. You know, we talk about comfort in relationships, and that's a big thing. Ohio State is getting a reputation now with the Polynesian players, and you know, as a place to go. And that used to almost be the exclusive domain of USC, Washington, Utah, those schools out west. And now Ohio State's becoming a location for that. And you know, you throw that on top of having, you know, Megda, Ibugda, and fucking Guy Scott. You know, you've got two of his best friends here. You're going back to that comfort relationships thing again. It's awesome. I mean, you're really putting yourself in a really good spot here, and I know he feels at home. He feels at home, and he feels good about things, and that's really what you want to have happen in visits like this.
What about you, Ben? Coming down the stretch, what are some things that can separate us and things that make you feel good about where Ohio State's at?
Well, I've always felt good for months here. I just thought everything
Mhm.
lined up well for Ohio State, for everything Nevada just said. And then, you know, you know me, I'm always looking at every angle of everything. So there's always a negative in everything. And I don't know that this is a negative, but Ohio State is going to get hammered about Larry Johnson. You know what I mean? If you're Oregon or USC, Bama, Washington, you got to look for chinks in the armor. And when you're talking about Ohio State, you don't have a lot of them. There aren't a lot of chinks there. But Larry Johnson possibly retiring is something they've used that against Ohio State for the past 4 or 5 years. And of course, he's still here coaching. So Ohio State is going to have to handle that. That is going to get brought up by the parents. And the easiest thing is for Larry Johnson to look him in the eye and say, I promise you, I will absolutely be here until your son leaves Ohio State. And he's done that in the past with defensive linemen. Did it with Zach Harrison, and it's going to prove to be truthful. And so that's the thing. And that's one negative that's out there that's going to be used against Ohio State. And they can combat that negative in 15 seconds. It's Larry Johnson sincerely telling him, I'm going to be here. I promise you. And then it's over. It goes away. So that would be the only negative that I could possibly throw out there.
And for me, like when it comes to the coaching staff stuff, like there's nothing guaranteed in coaching. I mean, Jim
Absolutely not.
Tressel's 9-1, and I watched him get fired right in front of me.
Right.
So yeah, and honestly, if there's a chink in Bama's armor, because I'm like you though, I love Alabama. I love Nick Saban. I love how they play football. They don't talk to the other team. They play hard. He gets after his kids and develops them. So everything about Bama, I love. You know, so I can't. There's the only, but a chink in their armor is that they have a lot of coaching staff turnover because
Every
people
year.
like to hire people from in that program to start their own programs. Every year, it's like, so if Steve Sarkisian if he takes the Texas job, he's taking 4 guys with him. Or,
Right.
you know, if someone needs a coordinator, they're hiring that D line coach to be their coordinator. I mean, it's, you know, and that's part of his success is people want to figure out why is Bama so good. So they hire their coordinators basically every year. I mean, there can't be a staff in the world that has more turnover than him. And it's because he's so successful, not because they're bad. And so whoever the D-line coach is today, is he going to be there in a year? I don't know. I mean, Tosh Lapoy's with the Jaguars now, and some of these guys that they've gone through, like, and it's because they can get promoted. It's like, you know, that offensive coordinator takes the D-line coach with them to be the D coordinator. I mean, it's just, you know, that's a chink in the armor for Bama. And again, there aren't many chinks in Bama's armor, but just being realistic, you know, if Larry Johnson is on beer for 3 years, Larry is not going anywhere. He's not looking to be a head coach. He's not looking to be a DC. You know, he's on the back nine. He's fantastic in what he does, but sometimes it's good when you have a guy that is really comfortable and happy. He's very happy just being a D-line coach because he gets to be a technician. He gets to really have a small group of kids that he loves and cares about and develops. And, you know, and most coaches aren't like that. Most coaches are like, well, how do I get to be a coordinator? How do I get to be, you know, and I love, you know, I love Al Washington Jr., but I mean, you know, he's going to be getting poached every offseason by somebody. If the defense plays well this year, there's going to be schools throwing Marcus Freeman money at him. $2.5 million to come be an SEC coordinator. And that's not a bad thing for him. That's a good thing. And it's a good thing for Ryan Day that people want your people, because if they don't want your people, then that's a bigger problem. So, but Larry Johnson is about as locked in of a D-line coach as you can find. And he's also happens to be the best to ever do it. So that's something I would sell till the end of time, just because I know that he's not looking to go anywhere. You know, this is his last job, and I'd bet a lot of money on that he's not trying to go to the NFL or go elsewhere. And he's not going to get poached because he has a loaded up room. So, you know, you're not going to get him. He's not going to go to Bama or LSU or anything, because he's built that room right where he wants it. And everybody just leaves him alone, lets him, you know, be like the master of the D line, which is perfect. Real quick, I'd love to get you guys' thoughts.
Hold on, Kirk, just one other thing. I know when he recruited Jack Sawyer, that was a big part of it. He committed to them and committed to the entire Sawyer family that he would be there through Jack's entire time at Ohio State. So there's no reason to believe that he won't make a similar commitment with JT, and that's going to be put front and center in terms of doing it. And you know, but I think it really puts Ohio State in a commanding position. And frankly, I think it's one of the reasons why Ohio State has led for so long in this recruitment.
Yeah, I agree. That it's just nice that you have two 5-star guys that run concurrent, so you can make the promise that it works for both kids. That's great. Real quick, I just want to get you guys' thoughts on what Ohio State did to, at the airport. Because this was, obviously it wasn't an accident that all these media members magically found out his flight. Is because they basically back channel said, hey, could you guys make this kind of into like a bigger deal than it would be if it was just the coaches there. So we're there with our little cameras and stuff, and I thought it was I actually really liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was something that people haven't seen before. I thought it was unique because he was the only kid landing that day. So normally when you have 12 kids coming in or 20 kids coming in, or it's on a game weekend, you can't pull off something like that where you take 20 coaches and put them in shirts and have the little lays. But I just want your thoughts on that, because it was overwhelmingly just incredible positivity about how cool it was to see and that. But Nevada, like, what were your thoughts on the efforts that Ryan Day and that staff did to coordinate that I guess that landing reception party?
Well, look, I think the cynic would be like, oh, that's corny. Why are we doing that? Blah blah blah. And the reality is, everybody likes to feel like they're a big deal, and I don't care who you are. But especially if you're an 18-year-old kid, it's one thing for Ohio State to say to you, you're important, you're a centerpiece, you're a priority, you're a guy that we're going to care for. It's another thing for them to show something like that. And I thought it was great. I think it was, it was a little bit out of the box for Ohio State, which I think we need a little bit more of the out of the box thinking. And the fact that we were able to get a front row seat and watch that, I mean, I don't think that's ever happened in the history of Ohio State before. To that degree, and the fact that we got a chance to watch that, that was crazy. That was absolutely crazy.
What do you think, Bank?
Yeah, we were told about the whole thing at camp. Well, you weren't there Tuesday, so it was Wednesday. And Ohio State, they let us know when that flight was landing, and they let us know that they wanted people there. At the time, I agree, it was totally out of the box for Ohio State. And I thought it was kind of risky. I thought there was a potential there for things to get sideways. It could come off kind of cheap and kind of tacky, but it didn't. I watched it. I watched every minute of it. I thought you were great, by the way, but I watched it. I thought it was really respectful. I thought it was tasteful. I thought it was respectful, and I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And if, Alabama and Oregon didn't watch it and learn from it, then shame on them. I thought it was really, really well done. And it kind of, props to Ryan Day. He took a shot there. It was out of the box for sure. He took a chance and he pulled it off. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. And I think it's important for coaches to get out of their comfort zones. It's like you have like Paul Rhodes, who's one of the defensive. I thought he was great. I was shooting the bull with him for a little bit, and they're all in Hawaiian shirts, and people could say it's a little campy or whatever, but it's like, to me, it's like the strength in numbers of having 20 guys there to meet you and meet your mom, and meet your dad, and and everyone that's coming in, and it's like, I think that people might think that's corny. Or people are like, oh, well, we're people. The best people are like, oh, we're Ohio State, we shouldn't have to do that. I'm like, well, when that kid's getting 4 sacks against us in the playoffs and he's playing at Bama, you're gonna be like, well, man, I wish we would have pulled out all the stops like Bama did. I mean, because with a guy like this, and you got to pull out every stop known to God and man. I mean, there's no, you got to empty the chamber and just get everything out, because there's you don't want to say, man, I wish we would have thought of this. I wish we would have did this. Like, you got to keep the. You got to redline this thing, you keep the pedal down the whole way, because, the funniest things when people are like, well, he's a very quiet kid and he doesn't like attention. I was like, well, if that was the case, he would have committed 10 months ago and he'd be on campus and working. But I mean, I think he is a quiet kid. He seems like a nice kid, but if you're waiting until almost July to commit, I mean, you got to like the attention a little bit, because you're literally the only guy left to commit. So the eyes of the world are on you. But I loved it. Like, I thought, you know what, man, if you got to do something like this, sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to get outside the box. You got to get the guys wearing the jerseys, and like whatever. Cause it's just like, it's sometimes it's the effort of the council to be like, man, those guys they really want my kid. And I saw the reactions from the parents and the kid. And, I think, and you can always see like when they hug Larry Johnson and Ryan Day, and there's like a genuine like warmth there. It's not like oh, this is whatever. Like, it's like almost like he's already in the family, which is good. I mean, it's good for Ohio State. Any final thoughts, you guys? We've got coming down the stretch. He doesn't leave till Monday, so this is like literally the longest visit I think I've ever seen. But he leaves Monday, flies to Oregon. Any final thoughts coming down the stretch these last 2 days? Start with you, Nevada.
I mean, look, I think we get them. I think coming into this visit, Ohio State has always felt that they were the one. I don't think anything's happened that's changed that. If nothing, it's strengthened their position. And it'll be very, very interesting to see. I mean, I know they've waited this long. They'll wait a little bit longer. But they're clearly going to go in for the close, and every indication that I've gotten from everybody that's been part of these meetings, been part of this thing, is they feel like they're in the catbird seat, and that's a good place to be.
How about you, Beck?
Yeah, I think they're getting him too, and I think they've done everything right. Going back a long way to land him. The dream scenario for Ryan Day is that he sits down with the parents Sunday morning and tells them, look, this is the place you need to be. I think that. Cancel those other 2 visits. You don't need to take them. This is your home. Fly home with mom and dad, get your stuff, get back here, and let's get started on, presenting JT Tuimoloau's future as bright as it can be. I saw a great recruiting effort, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago when Ryan Shazier got recruited by Luke Fickell to Ohio State. And Luke was brilliant because a big stickling point was Vernon Shazier preaches in his church every Sunday. And the attraction of going to Florida was going to be that Ryan would be able to play for Florida on Saturday, be in church on Sunday with Vern and his wife, and Luke combated that. And it was hard to do. And Luke just said, look, Ryan will not be with you every Sunday going forward. I can't make that happen at Ohio State. But you don't have to worry about that because I'm invested in your son. I'm invested in Ryan. I'm going to spend every day invested in Ryan. You don't have to worry as parents. Him being with me is just like he's with you. I'm going to take care of him just like you were. And it meant something to them. It was sincere. And Vernon Shazier talks about that to this day. That meeting with Luke is kind of the final thing. And I think that's what Ryan Day, can possibly do tomorrow morning or tonight, the last time he meets with the family. Is just lay it out there. This is the place you need to be. I'm going to take care of your son. Let's get this started now. And you never know. I'm not anticipating that to happen, but we've seen stranger things in recruiting.
Yeah, I don't know if Luke knew what an iPhone was, but I would have pulled out the GPS and typed in Gainesville to where did Ryan go? Like he got a plantation, or he was from like Miami, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It could have been done.
There's no way that
No, it could have been done. They had it all figured out. Yeah, because they had 2 different churches. No, they had 2 different churches, and they had a church up north of Miami, and it could have absolutely been done. But, Luke handled it perfectly. It was brilliant what he did. Now, whether someone told him how to handle it or he thought of it, I don't know. But, I mean, it was an amazing discussion with the parents on how Luke was invested in their child. And they bought it, and it worked.
Oh, I don't doubt it at all. But I'm just thinking, like, man, you're telling me, I'm literally typing in Gainesville to Miami right now because it's got to be at least a 2-hour drive, at least, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's a 5-hour drive.
Yeah, but they had a church north.
I guess
it was either in Port Lucie or something. It was it was going to happen. And Vern and his wife. Vern and his wife were going to be able to see Ryan every weekend as well. So it was all planned, and Luke combated it.
I love all that. last time I saw Ryan was at Club Live, and Club Live isn't quite, it's not quite the cathedral that, you know, most of us go to, but I saw Ryan and Carlos out at Club Live, and I had a better table than they did. They were dying laughing. But it was that's an amazing thing. I love that story, because I never knew that, but holy cow, it's like the last thing I'd want to do if I was, I mean, I wouldn't even want to drive to Maslin on a Sunday morning after a football game, and you know he's going to go out at night, so it's like, you know, you come rolling out of the rack at 2 a.m. and then you're like, oh god, I got to drive to the Pew for, you know, 10 a.m. mass or whatever. Oh my god, and then I got to be back at the football building for films, and because that's the hard part, is like for Sundays when you're a college kid, you got to be in the building at noon. So I mean, you know, driving, you know, commuting 2 hours each way or whatever it is, like, I don't know. God bless his heart for thinking he's going to do that. But that kid would have probably gone about one time, said, "Dad, I'm too tired. I'm good." But you can Zoom meeting me into the Pew, and I can watch it in my underwear on the big screen, you know. But that's about as far as I go to get into the Pew. I didn't get too many pews when I was at college, because I was, you know, enjoying my sleep and my fun. But all right, brothers. So, dude, I appreciate you guys coming in on Saturday. Keep killing it. You know, we might have another update tomorrow night. And then we got camp Tuesday, Wednesday. Me and Bank, babies, kicking it. So appreciate you guys. This has been the Scoop World Order. Thank you, guys.
I mean, that